So more discussion here. Who wants to share a little bit more about either unique selling proposition or how they move the client in that line of questioning? What are the questions you ask? How do you find that hot button? What's the trigger events? Talk to us about your process. Who wants to share? Kavika? I'm going to come out and ask you that question. You're a pro. You've been doing this for a long time. How do you do
Yeah.
that? What's the line of questioning? By the way, your daughter's amazing.
Thank you.
She comes to my rookie calls, and she's cool, dude. You did a good job there. Congratulations, Dad.
Thank you. Identifying the hot, but I think it's asking them about how much financing they're looking for, asking them what they're looking for the money for, and then I guess just digging in further, right? Not just don't stop with just the initial answer, kind of asking follow-up questions depending on what they say, just so you can have them explain it and get into it, and then you can really start to uncover what they're really trying to achieve, or what their goals are, what's holding them up, and what they're trying to achieve, so that you can go back to that when you are presenting the solution. Focus on how the business pro program can help them achieve their goals, and help them avoid the challenges or fears that they have. So I think just the follow-up questions based on goals and challenges that they've had, as you've been saying, Jimmy, right? Like, where have they applied before, and what's stopped them from, what's been the biggest challenge, right? And in the interview, and then maybe just having them elaborate further, so you not only uncover the goals, but the challenges and the fears as well. What will happen if they don't get funding?
I love that. One of the things Michael said is he listens. So, Kavika, what I'm going to ask a follow up question to you, and that is, you said you ask questions and you qualify those questions and you keep moving in a certain line of questioning, so to speak. How do you know when you've hit a nerve? How do you know when to move towards the pain? How do you identify that? What specific questions do you ask? How do you endear yourself to the client when you find that you've hit a nerve, you've had a pain point?
mm.
If you had to train the group on that, what would you say?
How do you know when you hit a nerve? Well, I think you'll know, right? Because they'll explain, but maybe so we deal with a lot of real estate investors and clients, right? And so some maybe opposite of your question is, sometimes if it's not coming out, I think it's always good. I sometimes just use an analogy, like, sometimes where our other real estate clients, it's typically fairly easy to get private mortgages, to get the 80% financing. But what's often a challenge or the bottleneck is coming up with the down payment, the earnest money, the fixing funds for the fix and flip, the rehab, and ask them, can you relate to that? And then they'll start to elaborate further on that aspect, right? That's fairly common, where they can get the financing for the property itself, but it's the down payment and the working capital that's a challenge. And so mentioning that, a lot of times they'll mention a specific project or projects that either they want to do or are working on, and that they need capital for.
Well, let's get into the weeds a little bit, because there's people on this call right now that aren't always here. There's some people on this call that I know for a fact just joined us. So when you're talking about asking a line of questioning, and we learn this, you guys, I don't know how many sales seminars you said it, but I hate to count how many I've said it, and I think I hear the same thing over and over again. And we are guides. We've talked about this. You want to build a relationship of trust with people. You want to create the conversation. You want to find commonality. You want to find some common purpose, right? You want to build that relationship of trust. 3 C's, right? The conversation, leads to the connection. The connection leads to conversions. But when you're asking people about the things that they desire, obviously we assume and we know they're coming for funding. So let's take that one off the table. We start moving towards the right discussions. You have to be, like Michael says, you have to listen. 2 ears. 2 ears,
Mm.
one mouth, right? You listen twice as much as you speak. But when you get to the point that you think you've identified the primary point, pain point, You need to affirm. Does everybody know what that means in sales? Do you know what the affirmation, you know what you're asking them to do? In sales, you're asking them to confirm. So you ask a qualifying question. Gee, that's an interesting point, Mr. and Mrs. Client. I can feel that there's angst there. Is that the single largest challenge you're facing? Ask them. Is that the single largest challenge you're facing? And they're going to think, they're going to go, well, because if it's not, you're going to get another layer, right? They're going to drop you down a little bit farther, right, Aaron? They're going to drop you down a little bit farther because if it's not, if you haven't pinpointed, if you're close, you're fishing. It's kind of like fishing. You throw that lure in the water, you get a little bite. Well, you haven't hooked him yet. You got to make sure you set that hook before you bring that fish in, right? So you ask them to affirm. You always affirm and confirm, affirm and confirm, affirm and confirm. Gosh, let's call Sally. Gee, Sally, I get you, man. I understand. I hear that a lot from my clients. Is that the single greatest challenge you're facing? And she'll either say yes or no, or she'll say, well, yeah. And if it is, if she says yes, if she affirms, what's your next question? How can I help? Right? Because they're just coming for help. They're coming for a solution. They showed up here because they want a solution. They're not hanging out with you having a conversation because they have nothing better to do. These are business people with a purpose. They have an objective. They showed up, they booked the appointment. They're coming because you're the hope broker. You're the hope broker. You're the person that could lead them to their solution. So you guys know what we have to do, right? Problem, solution, sale. Problem, solution, sale. Problem is the pain. The pain has to be identified. It has to be affirmed and confirmed, affirmed and confirmed, affirmed and confirmed. Repetition is the mother of retention. You have to affirm and confirm. When you find that pain point, you need them to tell you, yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh, you found it. Oh, you're the first person, right? Wow, Sally, I've heard that a lot. We've been able to help. And then that gives you the chance to build some trust and that connection. They're opening up for you. The next thing you say is, wow, I've heard that a lot. I've had several clients I've been able to help with that specific same challenge. How may I help you? Now you're opening up. How may I help you? They will tell you. They will tell you exactly what you need to do. Those are the items you need to put down. Those are the items you need to drill down on. A-Rod, anything to add to that?
Absolutely. This is fantastic. And Kavika, thank you for opening this up. And you kind of opened this section up probably unknowingly because you said the word fear and instantaneously that is like I turned on because that is where people who make a lot of money in business, who make a lot of money in sales, they're very good at doing exactly what Jimmy just said, tapping into people's fear. If you think about it, you're trained from a kid to go after the goal, like the vision, the happy place, right? And we all want that deep down. But here's the thing. Think about it, what really moves you when your mortgage is due at the end of the month, or you've got a bill, or there is a conversation you've been avoiding with a family member that you know has to happen right before the family reunion. What's motivating that? Fear, right? And if you can tap into that, right? And I'm not talking about being a fear monger. That's not what I'm talking about, but doing exactly what Michael had said about listening, like active listening, asking great questions. And Jimmy, I would even say one thing, your line of questioning it could not be more spot on. And one thing you could add to even go into maybe a couple layers deep is there anything, you could just use this phrase, is there anything in addition to that? Right? So pause when they're done talking, telling you about that. Is there anything in addition to that? Well, yeah, if I don't get the funding, it means, I can't hire the people that I want to hire. And And if I can't do that, then my wife and I aren't going to be able to buy the house we want to buy next year. Right? What does that mean to you if that doesn't happen? Right? Rather than what does it mean to you if it does happen? Rather than going towards the positive, go towards the negative. Right? Because what you want to do in sales is you want to put people's back, I don't know if you can see me turning here, put their back towards the pain. Right? You're going to run a lot faster from a lion than you are towards $1 million. Right? So put them towards the boogeyman, put their back towards the boogeyman and get them pointed towards the goal and use that pain as the thruster. Right? So what happens if you don't get that house? Well, if we don't get that house, it means that we're going to be stuck in this area, and then my daughter's got to stay in this crummy school district. And if she doesn't get in, we can't get her into that private school. And if we don't get her into the private school, registration's every 3 years. So it puts us out. Really? Interesting. Why is that important to you? Well, because, whatever, right? It could be whatever it is, but if you can tap into that and ask, what happens if it doesn't happen? Oh, geez, I don't know. Kirk, I've never thought about it. Wow. Well, probably have to shut the business down in a year and a half, to be honest with you. And I employ 3 or 4 family members, right? What would that do to your Thanksgivings and Christmases, right? If that happened. And of course, like sometimes when you get a person like that, you say stuff with a smile, and like that's more advanced sales techniques. But it's getting towards that pain and going to those layers, because here's the thing, think about it. You get them really thinking about the problem because you have them captive. And nobody wants to think about, hey, I want funding for my business. Guys, a lot of times it is for expansion, but expansion is usually because they're trying to run away from a boogeyman or something in their past. If you can get people focused on that, right? When you present our solution, all of those unique selling propositions that Jimmy and all of you have said, all of those things take on a new context. They get brighter. They go, oh yeah, you can help people? You can even help people like me? Yeah,